All right, today we're jumping into Taoism. It's this really fascinating ancient Chinese philosophy that's been helping people find balance and, a bit of peace for literally thousands of years. So let's get into it.
Right at the core of Taoism is this kind of mind-bending question. How can you be powerful by being peaceful? I mean, that sounds like a total contradiction, right? But this whole philosophy is built on the idea that real strength isn't about being forceful at all. It's actually something much, much quieter.
So to really get this, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the story of the guy who started it all. Then we'll check out the main book, called the Book of the Way. After that, we'll dig into the big ideas, what the Tao actually is, and that whole yin and yang thing. Then we'll talk about something called effortless action. And finally, we'll see how any of this ancient stuff can actually be useful to us right now.
All right, first things first. Let's talk about the person who got this whole thing started. A pretty legendary figure from way back in ancient China.
So this figure is known as Laozi. But here's the thing. That's not really a name like you or I have. It's more of a title, and it translates to Old Master. Some even say it means old child, which is this cool idea of someone who has all this ancient wisdom but still sees the world with a fresh, pure perspective.
The story goes that Laozi lived way back, around the 6th century BCE. His job was pretty awesome. He was the keeper of the royal archives. So basically, he was the head librarian for the emperor, surrounded by all this ancient history and wisdom. But, he got pretty fed up with all the political drama and corruption. He just got tired of it all and decided, that's it, I'm leaving. As he was about to disappear from society, the legend says a guard at the gate stopped him and asked him to please write down what he'd learned before he left. And that's exactly what he did.
And that collection of writings he left for the guard, well, that became the most important book in all of Taoism.
It's called the Tao Te Ching. Now that name sounds a bit complicated, but it basically translates to the classic of the way and its power. And this isn't some huge boring textbook or a list of strict rules. Nope. It's actually a collection of short, really poetic verses, all about how to live in harmony with the world around you.
And get this, the whole thing is just 81 short chapters. It's not trying to give you a bunch of strict rules. Instead, it uses this beautiful, poetic language, often talking about nature, to explain some really big ideas about life. It's definitely a book designed to make you think, not just to hand you all the answers.
So that brings us to the big question. What exactly is this way the book is talking about? Well, this is it. This is the absolute core principle of everything we're discussing, the Tao. Okay, so the Tao, it's pronounced Dao, literally just means the way. The best way to think about it is like the natural, flowing rhythm of the entire universe. It's that invisible force that guides everything, from the way galaxies spin in space to how a tiny seed grows into a huge tree. Taoists believe it's the source of, well, everything, and it's what connects us all.
And there's this amazing comparison they always use. The Tao is like water. Think about it. Water is soft, it's yielding, it doesn't smash into a rock, it just flows around it. But give that gentle water enough time, and it can carve a massive canyon out of that same solid rock. It's a perfect example of how real power can be gentle and patient, not just about brute force.
And this is super important to get. The Tao isn't a god. It's not some person you pray to. It's more like a fundamental principle of the universe, kind of like gravity. It's the underlying pattern for how everything works. So the whole goal of Taoism isn't to worship it, but to learn how to live in harmony with it.
Okay, so if the Tao is all about this natural, flowing balance, how does it work? Well, the answer lies in a symbol I'm pretty sure you've all seen before: yin and yang. The core idea here is that everything in the universe is made of two opposite, but totally complementary forces. On one side you have yin, that's the darkness, the moon, stillness, coolness. And on the other side you have yang, that's the light, the sun, activity, heat. But here's the absolute key takeaway. Yin and yang are not enemies. This isn't a big battle of good versus evil. They actually need each other to make a complete, balanced whole. I mean, you can't have light without darkness, right? You can't have activity without stillness. According to Taoism, problems only start when one of these forces gets way too strong and throws everything out of balance.
So that's the theory. But how do you actually do it? How do you live in harmony with this natural flow? The answer is a practice called Wu Wei.
Now, Wu Wei often gets translated as non-action or effortless action, and that can be confusing because it does not mean just being lazy and sitting around doing nothing. Not at all. It's about acting in a way that's natural and spontaneous. The perfect image is a swimmer in a river. Instead of fighting and struggling against the current, they just float with it. They still get where they need to go, but with way less effort and stress.
Really, the whole mindset of Wu Wei is about letting go. It's about stopping that urge to force and control every single thing in your life. Instead, you learn to trust your gut, your instincts, and just respond naturally to what's happening. And the amazing thing is, when you do that, you often end up achieving even more, but with so much less effort.
Okay, so this is all really interesting ancient philosophy, but how does it actually help us today in our busy lives? Well, Taoism actually offers some really practical ideas.
Laozi talked about what he called the 3 treasures, 3 core principles for living a good life. They're pretty simple, actually. First, compassion, just being kind to people. Second, simplicity, being happy with what you have instead of always wanting more. And third, humility, which is basically not feeling the need to boast or show off all the time.
And he had this really beautiful way of explaining that last one, humility. He said a wise person is like a valley. Because a valley stays low, all the water from the tall mountains naturally flows down into it. The idea is if you can be humble and open like that, you'll be able to receive so much more wisdom from the world around.
Taoism also has this really interesting take on what makes a great leader. A great leader isn't the person who's up front, shouting orders and taking all the credit. No, they lead from behind. They empower other people to do their best work. And when the job is finally done, a truly great Taoist leader has been so effective, so subtle, that the people look around and say, wow, we did it ourselves.
So when you boil it all down, the wisdom of Taoism is really timeless. It's this gentle reminder for us to just slow down a little in this crazy, fast-paced world, to get back in touch with nature, and to find that sense of balance and peace inside ourselves. And that kind of leaves us with a final question to think about for our own lives. In a world that feels so fast and so loud all the time, what can we really learn from stillness? What can we learn from the quiet, gentle, but incredibly powerful way of water?